Hello my sweet pea, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and today we're going to do the DNF tag. I first saw this tag done by Noelle 7 Pages, so I'll link her video down below and also the original creator if I can find it and all of the questions. Like always, my video will be time-stamped so you can skip around if you want to. Just in case you are new to the booktube community, DNF stands for did not finish. These are all the books that you would deem not finished by you. I'm gonna switch the numbers around here a little bit and answer question number 9 first, and that is tag someone. Just FYI, nobody tagged me, but I do what I want. If you're hesitant to do tag videos, if you're not specifically tagged, take this as an invitation to do this tag if you feel so inclined. Question number 1 is, do you DNF? And the answer is yes. Yes, I do. Question number 2, if you do DNF, does it count for your finished book count at the end of the month? So here is where no, it doesn't count towards my finished book count at the end of the month, but I do count it for like books I've read at the end of the month. Like when I do my wrap-ups, I'll include it in the wrap-up to say like, oh, I didn't finish this, I didn't like it, or it wasn't my preference. That's what I would do, but I don't say that I finished it. Question number 3, is there a difference between DNF and just putting the book down for a little bit? I would say 100% there is a difference. So for me and my reading practices, DNF is like, not for me at all whatsoever. I don't like this. Putting down a book for a little bit is different, because there are like mild intentions of coming back to it. I am what the book community would consider a mood reader. Like I have a rough list of books I want to get to each month, but it really depends on my mood. Sometimes I want to read a more classic book that like questions my intelligence a little bit. Sometimes I want like a quick, sweet, cute, fuzzy read from a middle grade book, you know, or I want to read a graphic novel, or I want to read some romance. So it kind of just depends on my mood. Early in the month, I had all of the intentions of reading The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. And I think I read the first like 20 pages and it wasn't a bad book, and it wasn't like I like vehemently disliked it. It was just like I wasn't in the mood for it and I wanted to read something different. I just put that down for a second and I'll recheck it out at the library when I'm ready for like a mystery novel. Question number 4, what popular books have you DNF'd? The most recent popular book that I DNF'd was Stephenie Meyer's Midnight Sun, and this is a perspective retelling of the book Twilight. It's told from Edward's perspective, who is the main love interest in Twilight, in the Twilight saga. I only got 30% in and then I was completely bored and I just couldn't get through it. Like I already know what happens. I kind of am like, I'm like so familiar with that story that I'm just over it. I relate this to like listening to a song for the first time and you loved it. For me, that song would be Modest Mouse's Float On. I loved that song when I first heard it. Then it was so overplayed that I, to this day, cannot listen to that song without being like, ugh, not again. However, if Stephenie Meyer had written New Moon from the perspective of Edward, I would have probably bought in a little bit more to the retelling, because I hope this isn't a spoiler. The books have been out forever and the movies are all out and everything. But in New Moon, Edward isn't there for, I think, over half of the book. So it would be interesting to follow him around. Also, I'm pretty sure Stephenie Meyer had these pages on her website for free to read back in the day. I don't know if they're there still now. So yeah, it felt super familiar and I felt like I already know this. There's no intrigue. I'm not interested, and I just, there's a lot of popular YA books that and YA series that I have not finished. Some are soft finish, so just like putting it down, and some are a hard like I don't want to visit that world anymore. So a couple books that fall into that. When The Hunger Games was really popular, a lot of books came out that were a YA dystopian romance, and most of those books I maybe got partway through and I just couldn't finish it. It was like the story was too predictable, it was way too angsty, and just kind of not, the trope wasn't done well, and so I just couldn't get into it. And then when Twilight was popular, we had like a surge of YA paranormal romance that got really popular. Some of those being like Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments. It's nothing against Cassandra Clare. I'm sure she's a wonderful author, but for her Mortal Instruments series, I think I got through book 3, I think it is, City of Glass. I don't know if I finished it or not, but as soon as, oh, spoiler here, so skip a little bit if you don't want to see this, but as soon as Simon turned into, I think, a vampire or a werewolf or something, as soon as he became paranormal and he was the only human in the book, I kind of lost interest. It just was like, okay, you either had to make him paranormal or kill him off because he was just going to be dead weight for the group. But like, I just got kind of like, I don't know, soured, or I don't know. I just ended up not picking up the rest of the series. I kind of got, I don't know, underwhelmed, overwhelmed, I don't know. Now there's like a whole megaverse of Cassandra Clare's, you know, Shadowhunter world books, and now it's just like overwhelming. Is there a series that I should read in there? If you're a Cassandra Clare fan and you think there is a series in there that is done really well and that you think I'd enjoy, then comment on it, or if it's your favorite, I'll check it out. Also recently, I tried to read Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn, and even with the audiobook, I could not get through it. In fact, it was worse with the audiobook. I just didn't like it. They use the N-word a lot in it, and I know like for that time and place, like it was like that was how it was and all that stuff, but it just like made me feel uncomfortable. And there's nothing wrong with anybody who likes it or it being a classic or anything like that. It wasn't my preference, and I didn't like how they treated oh my gosh, what's his name? Jim. I didn't like how they were like so mean to him and calling him dumb and things like that. I wasn't into it, so I didn't get very far. Even with Elijah Wood narrating it, I couldn't get through it. If you haven't watched my booktube newbie tag, I did mention that I love self-help books, which is very true. I consume a lot of self-help books, and there are a lot of books in that realm of writing that I totally DNF. Like I get partway through and it's gone. Some of the books just miss the mark, but there is an author who is female, and the way that she writes her books comes from such a place of white privilege. And I get it, white passing, but wealth and privilege, and you can have a designer bag too, is like the moral of the story, and I'm not there for that. This isn't it. I'm not here for this. That is the only book I have ever written a really poor review, like scathing, on the other side of the internet, because it was just so infuriating as a woman to think that all I want is a fancy handbag out of life is just. Question number 5. What are some books you wish you DNF'd? This one, I'm a little nervous to say because there are people who are like die-hard fans of this author. It was my first time ever reading Haruki Murakami, and I read 19Q4 or 1984 by him, and it's a story about this girl and this boy. It's kind of, I think it was 2 perspectives. This girl, I can't remember the protagonist's name, so I'll put it here. She ends up entering a parallel universe, and so where there are 2 moons in the sky. And honestly, I don't remember a lot about this book outside of that. I think I've tried to erase it from my memory because I was so upset that I spent so much time reading that book and there was no payoff for me. I could get the weirdness of it. I could get like the kind of like darkness in it, but the ending, the resolution was like so not, it didn't deliver for me. It was like too vague of an ending. I do have a copy of Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. I've been intending to read it since I bought it 2 years ago, but I just haven't gotten to it because my experience with 19Q4 was just not good. So I've been holding on to it. I know it's a beloved book, but I'm just holding out. Question number 6. Have you ever reattempted to read a DNF, and were you successful? Yes. So there is a really weird book by Kurt Vonnegut called Sirens of Titan, and it is the weirdest book I have ever read in my life. It is like sci-fi Martians weird book. It is so weird that it's hard for me to tell you what it's about. Let me see if I can pull up a synopsis here. Hold on. We have our protagonist Malachi, who's like super rich, and he's kind of a jerk if I remember correctly in the book. Okay, this sentence is really good from the synopsis. It says the Sirens of Titan is an outrageous romp through space, time, and morality, and that is so true. Like, it is the weirdest book, but it covers a lot of like dark, deep, like morality issues. It was so weird and it was so good, and I kind of want to reread it now. I really love Slaughterhouse-Five. It's one of my favorite books, and I wanted to get into Kurt Vonnegut. I wanted to like more of his books than just Slaughterhouse-Five. So when I first tried to attempt this book, I think I was just not in the right mindset, or I was expecting it to be something different than what it was. And so my second time trying to read it, I was like prepared that it was just gonna be like trippy. And so when I read it the second time, I really enjoyed it for what it was, which is an outrageous romp. Question 7, what do you do with DNF books? Donate, sell, hoard. Do you choose more or less risky based on your DNF policy? My DNF policy is I do what I want. So I don't know about like less risky or more risky, but there are ways that I'm fiscally responsible. The first way that I am fiscally responsible with my book consumption is I don't buy books that I haven't read or that I'm not like pretty sure I'm going to like anymore. I do this by number 2, I like to read the sample that is available on the Amazon Kindle store. You can actually download a free sample of a lot of the books they have available on Kindle, and you can read like the first chapter just to see if like the vibe matches you, you know? Like sometimes it's not about whether an author is good or not. It's more like, will you enjoy this style? So I always do that to check. And then number 3, I utilize Libby. You guys know I always promote this on my videos because I love Libby. Libby is an app where you can have access to your local library's digital collection, both for ebooks and audiobooks. So that's another way that I kind of tamper and get into new books that I may not be sure about. Those are kind of my 3 tips so that I'm like more fiscally responsible. Also, my dream is to have a library filled with books I've read and I love. I don't want any books that I haven't read or books I especially don't like. This is not for me. Of course, always support the authors you love, always support your local bookstores, but also you have to be responsible for yourself. It's not, you shouldn't like don't on the responsibility of buying lots of books, especially if it's not within your budget or if you're not in a financial place where you can buy a lot of books. All right, that is it for this tag. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.